Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the hidden economic machinery behind global conflicts. We're going to analyze exactly how the global arms industry treats war, not just as a tragic geopolitical event, but as a massive, highly lucrative business opportunity. If you've ever found yourself wondering about the direct link between soaring military budgets and skyrocketing corporate profits, well, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. So, we have to ask, is war purely a tragedy, or is it actually a business model? We almost universally view war as this tragic collective sacrifice, and it is devastating. But when we strip away the politics and just look purely at the financial data, a completely different picture emerges. The data actually suggests that conflict might be one of the most reliable revenue models ever created by modern economies. And honestly, this isn't some new, radical concept. Way back in 1935, a highly decorated U.S. Marine, Major General Smedley Butler, totally shattered this illusion of noble warfare. He openly declared that the military-industrial complex was primarily driven by profit. He literally wrote that war is a racket, conducted for the benefit of the very few at the expense of the very many. And here we are nearly a century later, and the numbers show us exactly what he meant. To see how this all works today, here's our roadmap. We'll cover the business behind the battlefield. Look at the long history of war economies, check out the giants of the arms industry, break down the financial mechanism of permanent war, and finally, weigh corporate profit against public cost.
All right, starting off with Section 1, the business behind the battlefield.
What we're seeing here brilliantly illustrates the core paradox we're dealing with. On one hand, you have devastated infrastructure and catastrophic human loss. But on the other hand, it's a massive economic catalyst. Think about it. Every building destroyed is essentially a future construction contract. Every missile fired is an immediate order for a replacement. The physical ruin of a region directly translates into serious economic stimulation for the defense sector. So just how much stimulation are we talking about? Well, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, or SIPRI, global military spending hit a truly staggering $2.7 trillion in 2024. To put that in perspective, that's a 9.4% jump from just the previous year. It proves that conflict is, without a doubt, a booming sector right now. The sheer volume of money flowing from governments straight into the defense industry is at unprecedented levels.
Moving on to Section 2, a long history of war economies.
The absolutely crucial point here is defining what a war economy actually is. It's not just about factories turning out weapons back home. Historically, it's about the systematic mobilization of resources. It's about taking foreign commodities, things like oil, minerals, or even forced labor, and turning them into fuel for an ongoing military machine. It's a highly calculated economic strategy designed specifically to secure state or corporate power. A perfect historical example of this is the 1942 Japanese invasion of Palembang, which was codenamed Operation L. Those paratroopers dropping from the sky, they weren't just taking territory for political reasons. They were executing a very precise economic strike. Their main target was the high-octane aviation fuel refineries, which were absolutely crucial to keeping their Pacific War effort moving. You can see Japan's lightning-fast strategy systematically targeted oil-rich regions one by one. First, Tarakan in January, then Balikpapan, and then Palembang by mid-February. This really shows us that extracting economic value from conflict, literally using war to seize the resources you need to continue the war, is a long-standing structural playbook.
That brings us to Section 3, giants of the arms industry.
Today, that historical playbook has evolved. Now, a very small handful of U.S. and European defense giants are capturing the lion's share of that $2.7 trillion budget. Just look at the top 5 here: Lockheed Martin, RTX, Northrop Grumman, BAE Systems, and General Dynamics. These aren't just your average companies. They're the primary beneficiaries of global instability, constantly locking in massive guaranteed government contracts. Let's single out the leader for a second. Lockheed Martin alone pulled in almost $65 billion in 2024. That kind of revenue is heavily driven by huge demand for advanced weapon systems, like the F-35 fighter jet, which is fueled by ongoing global conflicts. So this isn't accidental growth, right? It's growth directly intrinsically tied to the escalation of geopolitical crises. And believe me, the financial markets know this perfectly well. They immediately price in the profitability of war. Following recent escalations in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, defense stocks experienced massive surges. We're talking about Lockheed Martin surging 55% and RTX jumping 83%. Elbit Systems booked nearly $2 billion in a single quarter. For the shareholders of these companies, a declaration of war acts almost identically to a highly successful product launch. It's wild. Okay, on to Section 4, the financial mechanism of permanent war. So how is this entire system actually sustained without collapsing? Well, the answer lies in economic theory, specifically Keynesian military spending. It operates on the logic that massive government spending on the military sector acts as a huge economic stimulus. Governments essentially use your taxpayer dollars, or they take on massive national debt to subsidize private contractors. In this framework, war isn't just treated as a defense measure. It's effectively treated as a federal jobs program and a massive economic stimulus package. And because of this, we see this really bizarre resilience in financial markets all over the world. Take emerging markets like Indonesia's stock index, the IHSG, for example. When geopolitical shocks happen, like the onset of the Russia-Ukraine conflict or escalations in the Middle East, sure, the market dips initially, but notice how the trend consistently rebounds to new all-time highs. The global financial system has basically learned to absorb and even thrive on the economic ripples of localized destruction. Which leads us right into our final section, Section 5. Corporate profit versus public cost. Here is the core structural issue at play. The entire system relies heavily on privatizing the profits while completely socializing the costs. Think about it. The astronomical financial gains, the shareholder wealth effect, the guaranteed government contracts, all of those go to a select few private corporations. But the costs? The exploding national debt, the devastated civilian infrastructure, the heartbreaking loss of human life, that is all socialized. It gets pushed entirely onto the general public. Just look at the numbers behind this public burden. The U.S. national debt has now surpassed $38 trillion, and the annual interest payments alone hit $881 billion. That means the U.S. is literally spending more just paying the interest on its debt than it spends on Medicare. Meanwhile, global infrastructure damage runs into the tens of billions, and even nations far away from the front lines feel the impact. For example, foreign direct investment in Indonesia slowed by 8% simply because global capital shifted away from productive sectors like education and health and poured straight into defense. Ultimately, the true legacy of the war economy is this long tail of obligation. It's really not about the short-term profit of a defense contractor. It's the generational debt that our children will end up paying. It's decades of veterans' care. It's the physical ruin of communities that vastly outlasts any of the politicians who signed the deployment orders in the first place. Which leaves us with one final, undeniable question to ponder today. We've seen the data. We've seen exactly how the defense industry thrives on instability. So, as long as conflict remains the ultimate global business opportunity, can we ever realistically achieve world peace? Think about that for a while, and I'll see you in the next explainer.